All right, guys. So, what to expect for this week crypto market outlook? Should we see more downwards momentum, or is this the bottom? Because later on, I think we're going to have the FOMC meeting, and it's happening somewhere around 2 in the morning on time. And this will be the first ever Kevin Warsh FOMC meeting that's going to take place very, very soon. And of course, most likely the rates will maintain rather than cutting. But of course, along the way, hopefully we can be able to have some dovish speech rather than hawkish. Hopefully that Kevin Warsh can be able to say something like there will be a rate cut coming in the long run. I'm going to say there's rate cut coming in, then most likely will be dovish. If it's a hawkish tone, no rate cuts. Okay, market too uncertain, most likely to increase or push the rates higher, then I think it's going to be very bearish. So again, I think this is all coming in, and market was trying to price in before the FOMC is going to take place. So right now you can see the resistance is somewhere around 68,000. Okay, 68K at the moment. Then BTC is hovering somewhere around like 64, 65. Okay, still remains stagnant, still creating a lower high there. It's still bearish. Okay, then of course we're going to look at Kevin Warsh policy as well. What is the outlook later on? Okay, and then how is he going to access the market? Because look at the stock market as well, already all-time high. And how is he going to push the rates? That's also another concern. Okay, so this also marks Kevin Warsh's first appearance. Okay, but then while markets overwhelmingly expect policymakers to leave interest rates unchanged, which is already expected. Okay, high probability to maintain the rates. Okay, then of course, why this FOMC meeting matters more than the previous one? So important, right? So big question is what? Okay, whether policymakers will raise, cut, or hold interest rate. Okay, this time, however, it's already been priced in as the markets expect rates to remain unchanged. So again, what is the next likelihood? What is the next outcome from Kevin Warsh as the new Fed chair? Okay, especially coming into this current economy, and how is he going to lower down? Right, that's the most important thing, right? He's President Trump. Right? Just look at it. Everything is already all-time high. We have the SpaceX IPO just launched last Friday. Price are really at the extreme peak before we are seeing. Right, you see all those average people becoming millionaires by holding those shares. So we know that the peak is already there. Now we're going to see whether this thing comes into play. Okay, all right. But again, if you look at all the previous historical meetings from the Fed meetings, usually Bitcoin tends to struggle. Look at all the historical data as well. Okay, since late 2005 last year. Okay, so crypto has experienced significant decline after the FOMC meeting. First was last year, October, negative 30%. And then comes to December, 10%. January, about 23%. March, 14%. And of course, recently, 28% drawdown. Okay. All right. So the average drawdown is somewhere around 23%. Okay. Illustrating how quickly this sentiment can deteriorate when investors reassess monetary policy expansion. Okay. So, yeah, I think overall, we can see this part there. Right? So inflation remains the market biggest concern because the whole intention here, the goal here is to reduce the interest rate by 2%. Okay, that is the 2% target. But until now, we don't see that. Things getting higher again. Okay, but then if the Fed chair signals that inflation remains a significant concern, policymakers are in no rush to ease monetary policy, then traders will further push back expectation for the future rate cuts. Okay, so these are the things that we have to take note as well. Okay, right. So all these are the key development, 3 key development that you should be watching. Number 1 is the interest rate decision. We really expected that no rate will be changed, right? Even if you look at the CME watch list, high chances probability to maintain. So nothing to worry there. It's already adjusted. And the second thing here is that Kevin Warsh press conference, very, very important. It was first ever. So we're going to see how hawkish or dovish is he going to be for the first stock. Because if he's going to be hawkish on the first tone, then I think the market is going to be very shaky. So all eyes on his speech. Hopefully it's a dovish speech. Hopefully he says something like, okay, we are looking into cutting rates in the near future or probably next year. then probably market could be dovish. Okay, so we want to hear something like that. Okay, and then talking about future policy decisions, economic growth. Okay, and then for that one is forward guidance, right? So markets are ultimately looking for insight to what comes next. Because again, like I said, market is not like uncertainty. When there's uncertainty in the market, that's where you're going to see a major downturn. So anything regarding future rate cuts, policy flexibility, or continued caution could influence expectation for the remainder of the year. See here, any hints regarding future rate? So I already mentioned, as long as Kevin Warsh can mention something like he will cut interest rates in the near future or in the coming months or probably next year, then the market can be able to adjust. Okay, this is the thing that you should be looking for. The three key criteria: interest rate decision, the press conference, and then the forward guidance in the future. So we're going to see whether really be hawkish or bullish. Okay, very, very important. And then we look at the Bitcoin zone, the critical zone as well. Right now, it is still bearish, right? It already broke 60K. Now it's coming back up again for a short-term lower high. So then this lower high maintained, right? If not, then most likely it will continue to break down again. So again, I think most likely price will pump. Then after the FOMC meeting, price will go back down again. That's my expectation. Okay, so let's see how this thing goes. And then moving on next, right? Okay, so moving on next. Okay, so what do we expect here? Okay, so when is the next bull run? Right? So I think a lot of people have been expecting the bottom to be in so quickly, but do not see what's coming next. It could be another one more last drop, another one last calculation before we really see the bottom. Okay, so over the last year, Bitcoin went down to about almost 10.2% against USD. Okay, but nonetheless, we can see we are already in the bear market. Okay, and yeah, we are already down by half from 126K till now 65, so about 50%. Okay, right. So Bitcoin trades somewhere around 60 to 65K as of now. So what's going to happen? Right, and then even MicroStrategy also bought 1.87 somewhere around 8 to 14 of June. Okay, right. And then of course we look at the Q3 outlook as well. So usually Q3 outlook, I think, could be very bearish. Okay, usually June, 1 of June also tends to be the worst performing month. Okay, so let's see. Yes, after the FOMC meeting, most likely there could be another pullback for Bitcoin and the whole crypto market, of course. So if you look at the stock market also, already also at the all-time high, right? So now it's currently consolidating at the absolute peak, with SpaceX IPO as well, still on the rise. People are already at Ethereum, so you have to be very, very careful. Okay, so Bitcoin is stuck in the downtrend, but may be near a bottom. Possible could be a bottom at 60K. Let's see, because it's really hard to tell now. Because if you're going to find a bottom, it's going to consolidate, a long-ranging consolidation before it finds a bottom. Because I don't see Bitcoin doing a V-shaped recovery just like that. Okay, compared to the S&P 500, it's purely manipulated, right? You look at S&P 500, Nasdaq, all of a sudden you see a V-shaped recovery, but you don't see Bitcoin doing that. That's the difference. Okay, so yeah, overall we can see this is the setup right now. Okay, so even if it managed to climb back to 77 to 80K, okay, range in mid, it got rejected hard from the supply zone, which is the purple box. Okay, so going back to 80K probably unlikely, but maybe to 75K at least to create another lower high before going down. Okay, so these are the expectations here. And then moving on next. Okay, so I'm going to talk about ETH as well. So ETH, I think, has been dead for quite some time. People are getting fed up and bought with the current momentum, current structure. Okay, so at the moment, you can see that the Ethereum against Bitcoin chart is slowly starting to get some momentum, starting to outperform. But usually the case, ETH starts to outperform during the bear market, which is also a wrong timing during this time. Look at the alts as well, already down 1%. So what's the point of overperforming during the bear market? Okay, so can the momentum hold or will the bulls get trapped? That's the most important. Because what you're buying now It's a trader's market. It's not an investor's market. Okay, you're buying on a bear market where you're most likely catching a falling knife, especially for alts. So high cap asset. Okay, we claim key levels, right? And then of course, even Ethereum running about 4% since 15th of June, right? Reclaiming 1.8K, but it is still bearish. It's creating a lower high. All right, we look at the previous cycle as well, right? It is one of the most underperforming asset compared to other crypto. Okay, all right. So what's interesting is that much of the activity appears tied to a highly publicized bet. Okay, so this is by a trader called Ansem, one of the top traders. Okay, targeting a move towards $888. This is absolutely wow. We go back down below 1K. Okay, all right. So notably, the surge in open interest suggests this dynamic is already unfolding in real time. Okay, the interest, OI, open interest. Okay, and then if buyers in the spot market appear to step in and support the move. Okay, Ethereum's breakout above 1.8 could remain largely leverage driven. There you go. So the rally risk turning into a little more on a short squeeze, raising the possibility of a new trap. Yep, so already expected. This market, especially this year, we already know that the sentiment is bearish. Okay. Who is really driven? Who is actually driving the market for this year? Leverage. People who take high risk to leverage 100x, 50x, okay, to take the chance. You don't see retail there to actually buy on spot. That's the disadvantage there, right? Okay. And of course, we have people like Tom Lee, right? And it was, of course, his own company accumulating more Ethereum as well. It's currently down a lot. Okay. Right? Now, of course, we're also in trouble. Look at Bitmine. Okay, we look at other hedge funds are also accumulating, also get wrecked. Okay. All right. So Ansem's liquidated short is acting as a catalyst, reinforcing bullish sentiment and encouraging traders to consider for the upside. Okay. So again, like I said, it could be a bull trap as well. Okay. Right. During the bear market. Right. So you have to be very careful if you are trading leverage. Never be too confident, even though you know that the bottom is in. So eventually the market will prove you wrong. Okay. So in that context, the move back to 1.8K looks like more than just a short squeeze reaction. So let's see. Okay. And then talking about the Clarity Act as well. Okay, talking about Clarity Act. Okay, so you can see again delayed. Okay, so we're supposed to pass on live what, right? The proposal. Okay, so what happened? Okay, so the delay again. So I'm not sure whether this Clarity Act is really confirmed or how significant is this move. Because even if it's approved, okay, how much of bullish sentiment is going to pump the market? Because you don't really see that much effect. Probably during the bull run, probably yes. But you want to have the Clarity Act during the bear market. Okay, how significant is this conviction for the market to reverse back up? That's also important. The timing is so important. So even if you approve or not during this time, it doesn't make any difference. Probably it makes a difference only for those business, B2B, B2C. Okay, but for retail investors, I don't think so. Only for people who are providing products, services to customers. Then that's where it gets clear. Okay, in terms of transaction. Right. So yeah, then we look here. So most important crypto legislation, okay, before the US Congress, okay, has hit a political roadblock. Okay. Right. And then of course the Clarity Act has been widely viewed as the most consequential digital asset legislation ever considered. Why? Potential to finally define how crypto, blockchain networks, and tokenized assets are regulated. That's a key here. That's why everyone is really pushing this, the Clarity Act. So without the Clarity Act, things doesn't go anywhere. Right? So we want this act to pass as soon as possible so that there will be no more debate, okay, or protest regarding about all these digital assets or blockchain network or whichever it is. So once this thing passes, this thing will be regulated. Okay. So again, failure again to meet, which is somewhere around 4th of July. Then of course, due to what? Requires a Senate floor vote. reconciliation between competing committee versions, approval in both chambers and the presidential signature. See, so many processes that it needs to go through, one after another, right? You have to do the Clarity Act. Now they have to go through so many processes. Okay, so some now want that it is to push the measures into 2027, which I quite fine with it, because that's where I think the market is really bottom, and the market slowly starting to recover to transition from bad to good. Probably that could be the right timing to move on to 2027. Okay, rather than approving this year, I'll rather have it approved next year, so that the timing, the transition to the bull market, that's where we really push the momentum. And of course, the conviction, the sentiment as well. Okay, for retail to come in, and of course, those people who are buying those ETFs, right? I think ETF people also will definitely push volume for those hedge funds as well. Okay, so a closed-door negotiation involving key senators and White House representatives reportedly failed to produce consensus. So not so good here. Okay, so everything is falling in place. But then again, like I said, it is better to approve next year rather than this year, right? So yeah, to me, I don't think it's really that huge, okay, in terms of for retail, but for business, like I said, it's a big deal for them. Okay, they are really providing product services in blockchain or crypto, then probably yes. So let's see. Hopefully by next year, we can be able to approve it, right? And then moving on next, okay, talking about on-chain analysis. Okay, this is also again from CryptoCon. Okay, so this is the ultimate fear and greed levels we can be able to see. So after a predictable move to neutral on ultimate fear and greed, okay, so the next logical move is back to again. So what's happening now? Look at May 2026, it's last month, right? Which is the yellow circle. Look at last 4 years, it's April as well. The yellow circle here, similar. Hit at a lower high, and then coming down again. So this is where we are right now, again, similar. Right? Probably we are somewhere around here already, creating a short-term pullback, lower high before hit down. So expectation is quite certain. Probably we could expect one more last block. Okay, probably touching somewhere around below 50K, probably around 48, 46. Okay, so that's my expectation here. Conservative expectation for another low, right? Okay, and yeah, based on all those historical patterns, everything seems to rhyme right now. 1, 2, and 3. So this could be the next one here, which is the yellow circle. And then finally, we will find a bottom. Okay, hopefully we find a bottom, right? Whereas it was September, it was July, and June. Now we're already in June. Let's see. Can it able to find a bottom on June? Because there's still another 2 more weeks left to end this. So let's see. Okay, and then talk about the perma bulls. Okay, talk about the perma bull. Okay, so are you a perma bull or are you neutral? That's the most important thing. So perma bull is someone who is a bull market maxi. Can I accept? Okay, we are already in the bear market, but still thinks in the bull market. Okay, even though it's already downtrend, but people still think it's a bull market. You know why? So notice how quiet the perma bulls are, right? So if you look at the indicator, right? So Bitcoin will rebound, right? I think that this happened, right? But no less so than the last time. So we can see here, right? What's happening from this chart. Okay, so already break, right? We test again at 60K. So now it's creating what? A lower high. And this is a downwards trend channel. So we're going to see whether can be able to break this trend channel, then continue to challenge the 70 to 75K. Right? That will be another lower high challenge again. Now, if that were to jack, most likely we will hit down. But if it maintains, then most likely it will be the 80K range again, or to test back here. Okay, so that could be the case. So 200 moving average to provide some resistance for a second time. But once we get up into that region, it's time to watch for a reversal. Okay, a reversal here. It's level here, 200-day, right? Now, this white line here. Right, in my opinion, of course. But if price gets above 70K, we'll start noticing some confidence returning to the currently quiet perma bulls. that's when you know the market is about to pivot downward again. Right? So meaning if the market were to go back above 70K, you'll see all those people, those extremely bullish people starts to appear again on Twitter or YouTube or whichever, saying that, oh, this bottom is already in. We're about to go up now to hit the 120K all-time high. Right? So for now, you can see very quiet, all these people. So we're getting closer to the end of the bear market, and I'll be glad that it's over. But it ain't over yet, which I also believe. Right? Expectation is quite high for another one last block. Okay, so most likely bottoming is a process that takes some time. Right? I drawn the approximate paths. I consider most likely. Right? So yeah, these are the conservative type of people who are adapting to the market cycle rather than be a perma bull. Okay, so this was the expectation here. That's gonna pay out, okay, in the next quarter. And then more from next spin, right? What's happening here? Look at the VPVR. Okay, so if Bitcoin gets rejected here, which is the lower high, it is somewhere around what 72K. Okay, so the next level will be where? It's 42,000, right? Next major liquidity zone. That's where the demand is, the support. Most likely to be reaching that level. Okay, now what happens if macro iterates? Okay, if you look at the stock market, it's already all-time high. Now the market or S&P 500 index starts to go down. That's where those risk assets start repricing aggressively. Very, very dangerous. Okay, and this could also push back the price to somewhere around 26K. That's the worst case scenario. But I don't really expect to go all the way to 26.6. Probably around 50K range. I think that's the most conservative. That's where I'll probably going to reaccumulate in. Okay, dollar cost average my position around the range. Okay, and then Swiss block. Looks like the history continues to rhyme again. History may not repeat, but it does rhyme. What's happening here? Look, comparing all the bear market cycles and now, from 2018 till now, right? So just as it did during the 2018 and 2022 bear market, this year's May relief rally ended in the breakdown, right? The relief rally, the sell in May and go away, turns out to be true again, right? May was sold and ran away. What happened in max in those cycles? June became a period of bearish consolidation and continued stress. Look, see here, June, rate, okay, breakdown. So most likely, we might most likely to see something similar like this, breakdown again. And then by July, you'll see some short-term recovery, short-term reversal before we hit down. That could be the case there. Another lower high again on July. So expectation is quite high for June for another downwards pull before we see another relief rally again. So will the pattern repeat again? Possible. Okay. Right? But of course, diminishing returns. That's the thing. Okay. So that's my take here. Okay, for this cycle. And then of course, talking about other perspective. Right? If you are a trader or you're a hodler, okay, that we have any issues with exchanges or banks, right? Or any blacklisted. These are the things that you can be able to do. Okay. All right. So you can also trade on Hyperliquid, which is totally decentralized, I believe so, because you don't have to key in your KYC or submit any document. So you can be able to trade using the Web3 wallet like MetaMask. Okay. And you can be able to change gains to Bitcoin. Okay. Send to Bitcoin wallet if you have one. Okay, and then spend with Lightning. That is the Bitcoin maxi rate. You want it, only Bitcoin. But you can use like USDC. Okay, USDC gains to stablecoin app with debit card or credit card, crypto card. Right, so I'm not sure how many of you have the crypto card, like Edmund or Jim. Are you still using the P2P exchange? Right, it's also quite dangerous, especially right now. A lot of bank account frozen. Okay, account restriction. So when you transact on P2P, also you have to be very careful. And that's the thing why, right, during this crypto market, you want to have everything prepared. Okay, like how are you going to transfer the money? How are you going to spend? That's the most important thing. Are you going to transfer everything to your personal bank account? Right. So the crypto debit or credit card works. Okay, it is much more efficient. Okay, So you don't have to worry about banks or the government will try to track, because this is absolutely anonymous. We are using this card as a foreigner. So the best thing is option one is truly outside the banking system, no KYC. Right? So that's the thing. Right? Trading on hyperliquid, or you can use to Bitcoin and then you transfer. Right? Okay. So yeah, there are many ways, right? Okay. So option two has more options. Okay, where one can pay, easier to use. Okay. But obviously still using the normal banking, because some cards they want you to KYC. Right? Right? So they want to know whether you're a real person or not. So that's the only thing. But of course, if you look at convenience, it's much more better than transferring everything into your local bank account. So all you need to have is USDC transferred to the card, and you can be able to spend and withdraw. So you don't have to face any kind of headache, okay, whether your account is frozen or not. So still one can fully function outside the major banks, meet exchanges as a trader and spend one's gains, right? Which is also a big deal, right? Because you still see a lot of people are still using the P2P. You know there are a lot of scams, and of course your account might get frozen as well. High chance of your account getting restricted, okay, by those banks. So we have to be very, very careful, right? So we have already pivoted, okay, from all those P2P level bank account transaction, and we have already moved most of it to the crypto card, okay. So you can be able to spend, because now a lot of companies they have already integrate their ecosystem with a virtual card, right? So instead of having a physical card, they're able to use the virtual card to make payment purchases, okay. So it gives you that kind of convenience. So that's where I'm going to show you get able to go for this card called Ether5. So Ether5 is actually a layer 2 under Ethereum. Okay, they're providing lending services similar like RB as well. So this card, the best thing is they cater for Malaysians as well. Okay, I think they started since March, because before that they only allowed for Europe and US. So now they have already allowed Asia countries, Asia region. Malaysia is one of them. Okay, so this card is absolutely free. Okay, the only thing is that you need to deposit a minimum of $40, 40 USD or USDC, and you can able to create a virtual card. Okay, create a virtual card with. Okay, you can see right, I have two cards here. Okay. Okay, one virtual, one physical. So you just deposit any amount, but the physical card, okay, it will cost you $40. Okay, for within 1 year, if you manage to spend a certain amount, then it's offset. Okay, so that is the thing. And then they have 3% cashback for using this card. That's the best thing to do. Okay, for using Ether5. And then they have airport launch as well, premium launch. Okay, so this is a card where you might want to go for, because I think a lot of people be using Red.Pay, right? So Red.Pay is primary for now in Malaysia. So Red.Pay focusing more on withdrawals rather than transaction, but Ether5 is focusing more on spending. So when you have two cards, you can able to spend, number one, and the second card probably for withdrawal. So you got two cards that can able to move around. That's the best thing about crypto, right? So you don't stick with just one card, but we have multiple cards that you can able to use for a different function. Okay, so that's how to play around. Okay, you got one virtual, one physical, but for core member, they're given up to 3 virtual cards. So you can generate 3 virtual cards for free. Okay, without paying, you just need to deposit. And that $40, you can start spending through the card, through your virtual card. So that's the thing, okay, about Ether5. Okay, so links, I will share it later for those of you who are interested, because I think there is a promotion. Okay, I think if you spend a minimum of 100 USD, I think you'll get a cashback stock within the first month, not mistaken. Okay, so yeah, this is one of them, Red.Pay and Ether5. So it's better to have 2 cards rather than 1 card. Okay, so that's my take here. Now moving on next. Okay, so we have a lot of airdrops here. We have Hyperliquid. So if you have been holding Hyperliquid, okay, this is the airdrop here. Token is max, so you might want to go to claim it. Okay, if you have been holding this. And then next, we have Fuma Season 4 airdrop. The claim is now live, so you want to go to claim. Okay, and stake this if you are still keen on this airdrop. And then next year, So Value Season 2 airdrop is now live. right? So these are the only drops during the bear market, nothing much. Okay, then moving on next with the coin market cap. So we can see where are we now, 2.24 trillion, this year 65.2, 1.7. Okay, if XRP 1.19, Solana 72, Hyperliquid at 72. Okay, gainers for today, Esther selling up 16%, SPX is 915%, many token 10%. Okay, so short term reversal. This is just short term. So if any question, feel free to put chat box. I'll answer it later on. So now we look at the dominance. So what's happening now with the dominance? Okay, so we can see here, dominance now on the monthly is currently downtrend, break below the middle band. And then next possible, look at this level here, is 7.24. Okay, then on weekly, what is weekly doing? Break below the middle band, pull back for the re-entry. Okay, so for now the dominance is downtrend. Okay, look at daily. Okay, ascending, break, just creating a higher high and higher low now. So should we see a reversal back up again? It does back here at 59.33 and then leading up by the top here at 9.8. Okay, and then what else? Look at ETH against Bitcoin. What is ETH against Bitcoin doing? Still downtrend, right? Is it still down? Look at that. This is the current support. Okay, already broke. So where's the next one? Here. Okay, 002551. Now we look at weekly. Okay, so what's the weekly doing? Descending, still downtrend, rejected at the south zone. Now again retest, get rejected again. So how long, how much more can ETH continue to rally? Okay, so now creating a lower high compared to previous high. And then trend continuation again towards the downside. So next support will be here. 002680. Okay, look at H4. Higher highs, higher lows. Okay, but again, if we look at the bigger time frame, it's already downtrend from here. Look at BTC now, 65.1. Look at monthly. So we look at monthly, right? Monthly, what happened? Break below the middle band, pull back, lower high, rejected at the sell zone here. So now we are going to retest all these zones for the next quarter here, right? That will be the 59.4. Okay, I think it's going to retest again. And of course, if it ever goes down here, that will be the next one here at 47.2. So maybe we might possible to settle down within this range for the whole year of Q4. Let's see. Okay, right? Then look at the weekly time frame. What's happening now? Price already broke this critical support. So over here, 65.5, right? So last week we have a green candle reversal. Now it's getting a retest. So should we see this retest at least come back all the way back here at 70K before we go down? Or should we go down right now after the FOMC? Okay, so that could be very, very crucial, okay, for this week. Now we look at daily. So what happened to daily now? Rejected at the middle band. See here. Ascending, right? Price ascending, reversal, retest candle is formed. Now most likely to hit the low. So this will be the next level here, 63.3. And this level is 60.8. Okay, for BTC. Okay, already broke. So we look at ETH now, 1753. If we look here, overall it's still downtrend, 1785. Okay, 1785, and next is here, 1319. Okay, 1319, 1785. And then we look at weekly. Price did a momentum sell, pull back. So we're going to see whether or not can it able to retest back here before go down again at 1.9. Looking at it, it already start to reject each week here. Look at daily now. Daily similar like BTC. Price ascending, reversal, retest candle is formed. Okay, so should we see a reversal back here? Retest. That will be about 1692. 1692 and then leading up at this critical support at 1567. Okay, so that's ETH. Then what's next? I think there are a lot of out as well that are currently still rallying. Okay, so we're going to look at Esther. Wow, 75 cents. So all these perpetual decks are now rallying, right? Okay, because people are coming in to trade to leverage, okay, without KYC possible. So yeah, I think a lot of people are actually going to this kind of platforms, not only on Esther, but Hyperliquid, okay, Lighter, and many other platforms. That's why it serves such a huge case for the price to continue to rally. Look at weekly consolidation. This is the type of consolidation I'm really interested in, especially during the bear market. This is a thing that you really want to see, but not right now, because I prefer somewhere around Q4, right? So when you see a ranging accumulation like this, that's where you really want to pay attention, okay, for a crypto coin like this. And then we look at daily, still sideways, right? It's still within this range, still within this resistance, okay, 79 cents, 80 cents, okay. So now only it's starting to rally, 76 cents. So let's see how long can this really last. So what else? Let's look at lighter as well. USDC. Lighter, 1.8. So lighter, let's see, with the coin. So that's the chart. Now we look at lighter, you can see accumulation zone again, you see? Break. Okay, now it's slowly starting to break past. This is a monthly candlestick. So we've got another 2 more weeks to confirm this candle, 1.6 here support. Okay, if it continues to go up again, we should see around this level here, 3.2, and then link up this level here at 5.24. Look at weekly. So weekly is still consolidating, right? So yeah, I think it really needs to maintain this level of support, 1.67. Okay, so it could be a fake out as well. So be very careful. We are trying to long. Now look at daily now, ascending up. And then the next resistance right here, 1.78. Can it able to maintain and break it as support? That's the thing. H4 still ascending. Okay, for lighter. So all these perpetual decks are actually heading up, right? Then we look at hyperliquid as well. All-time high. How much here? 76. So it went to a high of how much? 76.95. Okay. All right. So we look at the weekly time frame. You can see higher highs, higher lows now trying to retest again. Now it needs to see whether can be able to break and confirm this support at 72.14. Okay, if not, you're probably going to go back down. And then retest back here again, 53.8. Okay, and then slowly come back down again to retest the middle band at 44.5. Okay. Right. So it did a V-shaped recovery, but let's see how is the stock market also playing the count. Okay. So we got the S&P. It's now turning red again. We're going to get up here, but slowly coming back down to fill back this middle band here. 7447. So it just opened, right? 1 hour ago. So let's see. Okay, look at the NASDAQ. Okay, let's get up. Look at Dow Jones. All-time high. Yep. Now, all-time high now. And then we look at SpaceX. SpaceX launched on last Friday. Wow, 194. It went to 224. That was when? It was on Tuesday, yesterday. All-time high. 224, 225. Now coming back down. You see, I think a lot of people make money from this. From 135 to stop, isn't it? 135 to 224. How many percent is that? 1x. Almost 1x. Right? Yeah, so this is it. I think it's already at a euphoria. Also have to be very, very cautious. And yeah, that's all for me for tonight. I'll see you again next live session next Wednesday. Take care and see.